Tonight, agreeing on a game plan ahead of a Canada-U.S. summit. Sharing strategies to avert a trade war.
This could have massive tens of millions of dollar impact on our financial forecast.
But for some Canadian companies, it's already too late. Sorting out the financial future of Canada Post, what's left on the table after layoffs.
They just can't compete.
Why some aren't buying Amazon's attempt to sell Canada as the 51st state. And doubling down on taking over Gaza. Why Donald Trump says American troops aren't needed. Plus, feeding a growing fan base.
It was unintentional in the beginning. I just posted a video with clips of food and some trendy audio.
Cooking up social media success in Eastern Canada.
It's time to give this a nice big mixy poo.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. Putting the political divide aside, government leaders have been meeting to prepare for war. The American tariffs have been delayed, but officials know Canada isn't off the hook just yet, and so they plan. But for some small business owners, it is already too late. Here's CTV's Mike LeCouture.
Behind the handshakes and camaraderie is concern over punishing tariffs. The Prime Minister huddled with the mayors of Canada's largest cities to make a plan for a possible trade war with the U.S. And Justin Trudeau wants them to leverage relationships across the border.
You are the ones who decide whether your lucrative procurement contract goes to a firm in Moose Jaw or Montana. You are the ones who put local diplomacy in action.
The mayors are already doing that type of work.
We can arm the Team Canada approach with real on-the-ground examples of how tariffs will hurt our local economy.
Even the threat of tariffs already is. Montreal-based Sheartex is laying off 40% of its staff because the tights manufacturer says additional costs could be too much to bear.
This could have massive tens of millions of dollar impact on our financial forecast.
Mr. Greer, I would welcome you.
The tariff impact on American businesses was highlighted during the confirmation hearings for Donald Trump's new trade representative. However, Jamieson Greer brought it back to the border.
The action that the president is talking about is about fentanyl, where we don't want another single fentanyl death.
Keen to show work is being done, Mounties went public with 3 recent incidents where they intercepted migrants at the Canada-U.S. border. In an interview on CTV's Power Play, the RCMP commissioner said 35% more personnel have been moved to the border from other areas.
We have to be flexible as an organization, and this is not different for any law enforcement, to be able to redeploy resources to a priority with minimal impact on what we're doing.
The commissioner says it's a delicate balance, but he insists the shift in resources will not impact public safety in other areas. Mirella?
All right, Mike, thanks for that. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has his own strategy when it comes to dealing with the tariff threat. He shared that today.
We need to make sure that if we're spending public money, any public money, that it goes towards Canadian companies, Canadian contracts that hire Canadian workers, particularly unionized workers who are well paid.
Singh says Canada has become vulnerable to the whims of Trump and needs to begin selling to more countries. It's a hard sell, but that isn't stopping Trump from trying to push forward his idea of taking over Gaza. He envisions a Riviera of the East once Palestinians are moved out and the U.S. moves in to rebuild. The idea has lit a fuse that threatens to blow up a fragile ceasefire. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief, Joy Melvin.
At a prayer breakfast, President Donald Trump spoke about the attempt on his life and his belief in divine destiny.
You know, honestly, it changed something in me. I feel even stronger.
And more determined to stick to his plan for a U.S. takeover of the Gaza Strip. In spite of pushback from world leaders, he posted on social media the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. No soldiers by the U.S. would be needed. walking back on military intervention, but restating his plan to develop Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East and resettling some 2 million Palestinians in the region. Making the rounds on Capitol Hill, Israel's prime minister calls Trump's proposal remarkable.
The actual idea of allowing first Gazans who want to leave. I mean, what's wrong with that? They can leave, they can then come back, they can relocate and come back, but you have to rebuild Gaza.
The idea met with outrage in Gaza. Protesters say they're not leaving. This is their land. And a pro-Palestinian group urging Canada to push back against any forcible removal.
So it is ethnic cleansing, it is genocide. And we need to see the Canadian government speaking out about this, because so far they've been very muted in their response, probably because they're trying not to, make Trump upset.
As Trump's top officials back his plan.
In order to fix a place like that, people are going to have to live somewhere else in the interim.
Not all Republicans are convinced.
I'm just arguing what is the logistical challenge of rebuilding Gaza, which I am told there's not a brick standing upon a brick.
We've got all the land we can handle right now. I think really not our business right now.
Trump is expected to meet with one Arab country that rejected his plan. Jordan's King Abdullah is here next week. Morella?
Joy Malbin, thank you. And we heard from Canada's ambassador to the UN on Trump's new plan. Bob Ray says this country supports a two-state solution.
We all agree there has to be a reconstruction of Gaza. I think most countries have taken the position, and Canada certainly has taken the position, that the reconstruction of Gaza should be part of a broader reconstruction of the Palestinian state, and that there should be an opportunity for the Palestinians to be able to have that.
The ambassador adds that right now, Canada needs to ensure there is a second phase of a ceasefire and not a return to war. Before it was taking over Gaza, Trump raised taking over Canada, folding it into the U.S. as a 51st state. Adding fuel to that fire, Amazon, which is now selling items online that promote Canada as the 51st state. CTV's Adrian Gobriel reports.
From 51st state pins to bumper stickers, there's even a maple leaf covered by an eagle.
Dude, what? Why?
Type in the words 51st state into Amazon.ca and an array of apparel appearing to promote the annexation of Canada pops up for sale.
A lot of platforms kind of try to do less in terms of regulating what's on their platform. Good, bad, or ugly, they kind of let it just play out.
Amazon's offensive products policies in part states that items that promote, incite, or glorify hatred, violence, or organizations with such views will be removed. CTV News asked Amazon Canada if the 51st state merchandise met their offensive product threshold. In an email, they shared that none of the items breached their policies.
It's almost like a free speech play in a way.
That free speech is being sold at a price. Just how much of this merchandise is selling on Canadian soil remains unclear.
There might actually be some people in Canada who might buy this stuff. There are some people on social media who say, let's do it, let's join.
Though we were hard-pressed to find any takers on the streets.
Interested in buying a flag?
Not one of those, unfortunately. I don't think it would fit my aesthetic in my room.
Do you think that these items on Amazon are promoting the annexation of Canada?
Yes, 100%.
That said, retail analysts point out that right now there's an appetite for political merchandise, including items trumpeting Trump's ideas. In some cases, controversy sells. Morella.
All right, Adrian. Montreal is taking a strong stance against Amazon. The city says it will stop ordering from the American online retailer until further notice. 2 weeks ago, Amazon pulled the plug on its Quebec operation, saying it will shut down 7 warehouses. The move puts thousands out of work. And of course, Amazon uses couriers that have been competing with Canada Post for years. Today, the Crown Corporation announced layoffs as its finances continue to fail. Only 2 weeks ago, it tapped Ottawa for $1 billion just to keep the lights on. CTV's Rachel Aiello tonight with the details of the job cuts.
Bleeding hundreds of millions of dollars annually, Canada Post let nearly 50 management employees go this week, mostly in Ottawa. The layoffs are just the latest in a company-wide restructuring, seeing the Crown Corporation eliminate 20% of its senior executive roles last month. In a statement to CTV News, Canada Post said these decisions are never easy, but they reflect the critical financial situation the corporation is currently facing. Canada Post's long-term viability has been a key sticking point in strike negotiations with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. While the recently laid-off employees weren't union members, nearly 3,000 frontline positions such as sorters and carriers have been eliminated in the last 20 years. The federal government recently threw the embattled Crown Corporation a $1 billion lifeline, but it won't be enough to solve Canada Post's structural issues, with couriers like UPS and FedEx competing for customers. Experts say the company's prognosis could be terminal if it doesn't adapt fast.
They just can't compete. The day-to-day delivery to municipalities, urban centers, densely populated regions, give it up.
CTV News' consumer alert team recently tested how long it would take to send letters to stations across the country and found that Canada Post is still struggling to catch up on deliveries after that month-long strike just before the holidays. The mail courier says that this latest round of layoffs won't impact service. Morella?
Rachel Aiello tonight in Ottawa. More than 12,000 workers at 400 Quebec daycares went on strike today. It's a one-day strike, but the second time they've walked out. Their union is still negotiating with the province. The main issues for workers are pay, bonuses, and workload. The Quebec government says it wants more flexibility to offer parents and children more services.
We really want to see our mayor or chief of police really step up and put in, help us secure our campus.
Montreal police are investigating a case of vandalism at McGill University. The words "Free Palestine" were scrawled across the gates of the main entrance to the downtown campus. Police say 3 buildings also had windows smashed. A funeral will be held Saturday for the late Aga Khan, spiritual leader of the world's Ismaili Muslim community. The service for His Highness, the late Prince Karim Al Husseini Aga Khan, will be held in Lisbon. Leaders of the Ismaili community, Portuguese government officials, and foreign dignitaries will all be there. The late Aga Khan passed away Tuesday at the age of 88. He was known internationally for his development work. He was also made an honorary Canadian citizen, and he gifted this country with the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto. His son, Prince Rahim Al Husseini, is his successor. Coming up, Canada's housing crisis under the microscope.
We would not be able to afford a new build.
The factors putting the fear in the search for affordable housing. Plus the ingredients to social media stardom. We're getting fewer shovels in the ground to build new homes, and that's a problem if the aim is to make it more affordable for Canadians to buy. And as we hear from CTV's Paul Hollingsworth, the slowdown could carry on for several years.
The National Housing Agency of Canada says we may not be building enough homes to meet the federal government's goal of making housing more affordable. It's another setback for Cassandra McMullen, who wants to move with her family from Alberta to Nova Scotia.
If they built those new houses, Paul, we would not be able to afford a new build.
The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says 2025 will see fewer than 250,000 homes built, less than 240,000 in 2026, and the next year will see fewer than 235,000 new homes under construction in Canada. But last year, the federal government's housing plan predicted more than 500,000 housing construction projects would start per year until 2031. Based on price and lack of options, McMullen can't be overly selective about where she buys her next home.
We have to look at the entire province and find the house that fits us.
In an email, the Office of the Federal Housing Minister told CTV News the government is laser focused on protecting and defending our national interest, especially when it comes to the housing market. Developer Vadi Fairs says a labor shortage and overseas supply chain issues have caused a slowdown. The entire industry is also bracing for lower immigration levels and a potential trade war.
That's creating a big problem for us. And the interest rate is still, very high. So really, the projects, they're coming in at a very high cost.
CMHC's latest forecast also predicts rental affordability in Canada will improve in the near future.
There is a bit of vacancy in the market, but that it is in the high-cost market.
Fairs warns construction supplies are more costly than ever, which means new rental properties may soon become too expensive for many Canadians. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Straight ahead, behind the scenes at Canada's busiest airport.
As soon as it's kind of hitting on the radar, we're out there trying to get ahead of it.
What it takes to keep travelers safe when winter weather gets in the way. Firefighters in BC took on an unusual rescue. Using ropes, the Kamloops rescue team helped pull out a deer that was stuck in a frozen river. An area resident called it in after seeing the animal struggling, which firefighters say is always the right move. Ice and snow make driving challenging. Imagine trying to steer an airplane at Canada's biggest and busiest airport. It takes a virtual army to keep things moving. It's unusual for cameras to be let onto the tarmac at Pearson International, but CTV's Mike Walker got rare access and has this behind-the-scenes look.
On a day like this, it's all hands on deck for the airfield maintenance crew at Pearson Airport.
As soon as it's kind of hitting on the radar, we're out there trying to get ahead of it.
Morning, ground inspection 9-4.
We're riding along with Airfield Technical Inspector Paul Atwell
Runway 33 left.
as he inspects the runways in between flights.
We're looking for any FOD on a runway and then looking for any winter contaminants to report. We do this every 4 hours or as required in the winter. No stopping on the runway.
He's in constant communication with the Air Traffic Control Tower and the Maintenance Control Center that deploys crews when a problem is identified. With flights taking off and landing every minute at the country's busiest airport, it's a critical job.
If you think of that from the pilot's point of view, they're waiting to get that inspection before they're setting up to land, so they know what are the conditions they're expecting to land on, and all the people in the aircraft, it's their safety really that we're talking about here.
The weather today presenting a mixed bag of conditions and challenges. About 2 centimeters of snow fell this morning. These massive plows were out immediately, working in tandem, responsible for clearing about 5 million square meters. That's the equivalent of 3,300 NHL rinks.
We're about 15 minutes of runway, which is about an hour and a half for an entire loop of the field.
But late this morning, conditions changed to freezing drizzle.
So these are more hard to manage in a way because you're not sure what you're going to get out of it.
With these conditions, there are delays. Every aircraft must pass through the de-icing facility before takeoff. Today, each de-icing pad is operational.
Depends on how much ice or buildup of snow, but it's anywhere from 6 to 15 minutes.
Over the past 2 years, Pearson has expanded its fleet that now totals 161 pieces of snow clearing equipment.
Some of that is to combat what, that sort of shift we're having in the climate. We're getting a lot wetter, heavier snow, which is different to deal with than dry, fluffy snow. The quicker we can get what we need to do done, the less delays you have, the quicker aircraft get out.
The biggest test of the season yet will be on Saturday with as much as 10 centimeters of snow in the forecast.
We're already organizing crews, making sure we have enough chemical on site, starting to plan if there's any issues with, do we have too many aircraft going out that time, and we have to space them out a little bit.
An around-the-clock job preparing for all scenarios to keep air traffic moving. Mike Walker, CTV News.
Days before his history-making Super Bowl performance, Kendrick Lamar made a rare interview appearance.
It puts the culture on the forefront where it needs to be and not minimized to just a catchy song or verse. This is a true art form. So to represent it on this type of stage is like everything that I've worked for and everything that I believe in.
Lamar was speaking about what it means for him to become the first solo hip-hop artist to headline the halftime show Sunday. The rap megastar is fresh off winning 5 Grammys for his Drake diss track, Not Like Us.
Stand up for your rights.
Today, Bob Marley would have turned 80. The reggae icon died of cancer at the age of 36. Marley is a legend known for his music and also for being a champion of peace and justice. To celebrate his legacy, a worldwide sing-along of his greatest hits was led by the world's largest children's choir, Young Voices. Straight ahead, the Canadian concoctions being loved online. The simmering success of a cook from Atlantic Canada. A woman in Newfoundland is finding fame by stirring things up. She shares recipes online like a lot of people do. But her how-to videos are clearly satisfying her fans who keep coming back for more. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry.
It might not look like much, but in Newfoundland, these bits of salt meat, peas, carrots, and potatoes, a traditional Jig's dinner being prepared in a pressure cooker, is enough to cause a stir. When Heather Brown posted this video, it got about 600 views. It seemed like a lot at the time.
It was unintentional in the beginning. I just posted a video with clips of food and some trendy audio, and didn't know much about it.
But it pales in comparison to what she might get now. One of this week's videos, 60,000 plays on TikTok alone. The followers are coming for Mrs. Brown's Kitchen in the thousands. Almost 500,000 people follow her page on Facebook. If there's a secret ingredient to her social media success, it's in the recipe selection. Brown says she tries to keep it simple, clear, enjoyable for her viewers.
A lot of people want easy and quick, and sometimes people are intimidated by complicated recipes, but I try to make it that they're not intimidating or not stressful.
The videos took off when Brown finally got the nerve to feature herself front and center in the posts. It's become like a full-time job, filling Brown's days while she's juggling further education. But Brown has leveraged her budding fame into a cookbook, which will be released in Newfoundland and Labrador this fall.
And I'm used to being able to talk through the steps, and now I have to put it into like sentence form. It's definitely a learning curve.
She gives credit to her partner Shelley for keeping the kitchen going as Brown deals with the requests and demands that come with this burgeoning career. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
That's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time with us. And a reminder, on the eve of the Invictus Games, CTV National News will be live from Vancouver tomorrow night, where the games will be held. I'm Morella Fernandez. For all of us here at CTV National News, have a good night.